Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's J-Man. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm J-Man, and I am flying solo tonight without Steiny with a story that was just too good to wait to record.
Go on.
Over the weekend, our local Halloween capital of the world, Anoka, held its annual Grand Day Parade, where they have Halloween-themed floats and assholes in costumes running around throwing crappy penny candy at kids that swear that Tootsie Rolls are good, when in reality, they are not.
That is correct.
But the parade itself is not so much the issue as much as the setting. Now, there are many shops in downtown Anoka, and one of them happens to be right there on Main Street, and it is called the Random Hippie. And it is owned by a woman who is not a fan of Donald J. Trump. And that's fine. She can have that opinion. But where things get a little sticky is that lining up to watch the parade was somebody in pro-Trump gear, and the store owner came out and asked the individual to remove themselves from out in front of the store because they don't like Donald Trump. And right now I'm telling you that that is a big mistake by the store owner, who's now being inundated online with comments about her chicanery and not being able to let sleeping dogs lie for the sake of an event that celebrates a holiday and is one of the biggest days in the city, and she had to make it political and about herself. The problem here arises from her coming out and telling somebody who is exercising their First Amendment right to free speech by supporting their candidate of choice with their various garb and regalia, and saying, you can't be here because I don't like who you're voting for. And the person is not in their store. They're simply standing on the sidewalk out in front of the store, and they're trying to watch the parade. They're not trying to interfere with the business's ability to conduct its everyday comings and goings or sales. It's not stopping other customers from going in. They weren't protesting. They were simply standing there, trying to watch a fucking parade. So while I think Donald Trump is scum, and I hope that he loses by a landslide and then dies of a heart attack from having to find out how bad he sucks, I'm going to support the person that was wearing the MAGA gear because it's their right to do so, and I'm emotionally mature enough to set aside my political views to not traipse upon your personal freedoms. And as far as I can tell from what I've been researching, in the city of Anoka, Minnesota, sidewalks are considered public property, and they're also owned and maintained by the city. So that includes the sidewalk under the right-of-way doctrine, which includes, their ability to put light posts there and the street adjacent and any wires overhead. The city owns the sidewalk. So the store owner is sitting here putting her thoughts and her agenda over the personal freedoms of this person, and it's just so indicative of where we are in this very hyperbolic state of black and white thinking in America right now, especially when we're mere days away from the next election that could either make or break this fucking country, if I'm being honest with myself. Because we get Trump, who knows how fucked up things go with him and pandering to his own ego and that whole Project 2025 bullshit and all the evangelical Christian leanings of it that want to make us all bow at the altar of their God's will and dogma. Or we could get Kamala and Tampon Timmy, and we could get, 4 years of limp-wristed, broken dickery by a man that couldn't even act to save the city that is one of the most prominent in his state from being burned to the ground. And then we have the VP, who I'm not sure she's totally qualified, but if you ask my mom, if you don't like Kamala, you better not vote for Trump, because voting for Trump is bad. And I tried to explain to my boomer mother, your generation is why my generation only has two choices. Thanks for fucking us over. But I digress. You have a shop owner who puts their desire, their thoughts, their political affiliations over this person's personal freedoms, and you can't be doing that. Now, if you had a bunch of Satanists that were protesting in the parking lot of a church, they must leave. That's the church's parking lot. If you're on the sidewalk that's adjacent to the parking lot and it's owned by the city, then you can sit there and 666 your ass off all day long and show all the heathenish imagery of Jesus getting a blowjob from Mary Magdalene, or somebody nailing him to a cross and pissing into his stigmata wounds. These are just, random ideas. You could even wear the old Cradle of Filth t-shirt that says Jesus is a cunt. Why? Because even though it's obscene and obscenity is not protected by free speech, you're not on their property. Somebody wants to come and protest in front of my house on the street, there's not a lot I can do about it. I could call the police and ask them to have them removed if I find them to be harassing or stepping on the property or damaging anything that's mine personally. But I don't own the street. My yard is my yard, but even then, you never own your home. You pay property taxes, and they can just take it with eminent domain whenever they want.
God damn!
Now, this is very different than, say, Kim Davis, the Kentucky clerk that refused to issue marriage licenses to gay couples because she had a job to do, and she let her own personal religious beliefs supersede the duties that she was sworn to do as a clerk of the courts in that county in Kentucky. This is also very different than a business that refused to make cakes for gay weddings and then somehow was fucking sued, which I think is bullshit. It's their business. If they don't want to make gay dudes cakes, they shouldn't have to. And they shouldn't be sued for having their personal beliefs as a part of how they conduct the business that they own and run. I never want it to be in this country where just because you like one thing or hate one thing and you want to talk about it, you're silenced by somebody who feels they have the right or possibly the might to stop you or shut you up, because that is censorship, and in my head that is wrong. And I would never want anybody to tell me that I couldn't express myself or believe in what I believe in, unless it's dangerous to other people, like pedophiles can all go fuck themselves and deep throat a shotgun, right? But if somebody wants to be a Buddhist, if they want to be a Mormon, if they want to be a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian, if you want to be a white chick that only bangs black dudes, if you want to be a black dude that only likes fat white chicks, if you want to be an Asian chick who loves it when Cuban pool men come to your house and come on your face, well, that's just you living your best life, isn't it? So have all that hot Latino bukkake fun in all your communist jizz-bathing glory, because you're not traipsing on anybody else's personal freedoms. But as I started to peruse after this incident happened and I caught wind of it through the police blotter and other people in Facebook groups saying, hey, the owner of the Random Hippie kicked a Trumper off of her fucking sidewalk in front of her store, and they're not letting them exercise their freedoms. And I have to think, if you own a business, you have a very fine line to walk between having your own personal beliefs and then having a set of business ethics that don't interfere with your ability to conduct commerce and serve people that you may not agree with. Now, as a business owner, it is your establishment, and you do have the right to refuse service to anyone at any time, as long as you're not discriminating against him. So, if, say, somebody walked into the Random Hippie and she said, get the fuck out of here, you smelly Somali, that would be discriminatory. If two gay dudes walked in with their hands in each other's pockets,
Hi.
like butt pockets, arms around each other, and she's like, hey, why don't you queers get the fuck out of here? I don't like your kind. And they'd be like, oh, that's very hurtful. I would just say that we're going to sue you because this is discrimination. And you can't hate us just because we love to suck each other's hard-throbbing, veiny members. Say you run a buffet and a family of 4 super fat fucks that are roughly the size of a goddamn Geo Metro walk in, and they want to eat all they can eat, and you're like, no, get the fuck out of here, fatties. You're going to bankrupt me. I don't need your corpulent kind. Go fucking jazzercise off about 9 waist sizes and then come back, and then you can have 2 plates worth. You can't discriminate against people for their body size, because apparently that's a protected class now. You can be just a morbidly obese, lazy piece of fat, smelly shit with cheese growing between your folds, and nobody can say, hey, you're not allowed in this car wash. Go take a bath in your backyard with a garden hose like a normal circus freak. And I don't want to drag this episode out with a bunch of examples of places where people are being discriminated against, other than this one instance. And I want to state that we as a nation are even beyond the tipping point where we need to start respecting opposing views. and no longer viewing those that are not in lockstep with our thinking as the enemy. I don't understand how it's gotten this bad. There's theories about the media playing us or the government playing us against ourselves, or just people being dumber in general due to all the misinformation that is readily available via the internet and social media. And all of that does play a part. But there's just a lack of general acceptance and civility and courtesy. Everywhere you go, people drive like assholes and cut each other off and just honk and flip the bird and swear at each other and get into fights. And then next thing you know, people are getting punched or stabbed or shot. People can't just like have an argument and then peter out and go, you know what? Maybe I went too far. Yeah, I think I did too. All right, let's just call it even and go about our day. Everyone's looking for a fight. Everybody's so stressed out. We're under-rested, we're overstimulated, we're fed garbage food, we're overworked, and we're all at our fucking breaking point. And it's situations like this where somebody doesn't think with the best part of their brain and that they're violating somebody's rights. All they see is someone with an opposing view, and they are the enemy, which is very dangerous because whether or not you like Donald Trump or Kamala Harris or whoever is pretending to be a third-party candidate who has no chance in hell, whether you're a lefty or righty, whether you're of this religion or that religion, we are all Americans here. And this is our country that we share. It's a space that we need to learn to get along and cooperate with each other there in the borders of. And everyone needs to just take a big fucking time out and breathe and learn to be accepting of those around them. Or else you get these instances where these idiot little shops in this town that thinks it's hot shit, but honestly, it's really the armpit of the county. It might be the county seat, but I'm telling you, it's a shitty town full of shitty people doing shitty things to each other and having a shitty reputation that is well-deserved. But I don't think the people at Serum's bar are going to kick somebody out for wearing a Kamala shirt or a Trump hat. I'd have to think that people at the White Buffalo would feel the same, or the people at Maine Floral would feel the same, because these are individuals that know that they need to make money, and that if you get negative publicity, it can cripple you these days. Bad news will travel so fast in the blink of an eye via social media, you could basically be severing your own fucking carotid artery with one comment or one interaction, and you need to be careful, because if that's the only means of creating income to sustain your lifestyle that you have, your professional reputation is very important, and as long as you're a good person who doesn't act like a fucking know-it-all Karen that thinks she owns the sidewalk, you should be safe. As long as you treat people with respect to the degree that they deserve, or at least ignore them if they're being assholes, you should be okay. But if you're going to put your political views out there for all to see at a very heavily attended event where not only does one person say one thing to everyone around them, all those people then tweet about it or Facebook post about it or whatever fucking social media app of their choice they have at their disposal to instantly, like a lightning rod, and they tell two people, 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 and suddenly you're like, why do I have 78 fucking angry voicemails at my store when I come in the next morning, and half of them are death threats? How did this ever happen? I'll tell you how. You let your pride get the best of you. You didn't consider it was a human being just standing there trying to enjoy the Halloween parade. Maybe it was somebody's grandma. I don't fucking know. Maybe it was somebody's uncle. I don't know the specifics of the person that was asked to move or leave or vacate the space, but I have repeatedly heard they were wearing Trump gear and they were asked to move by someone from the random hippie, and the best that I can tell is that one person, the owner, and maybe one or two other employees, it's a small crew, and they should have shut their fucking mouths. Because you don't know just how serious these people are going to get. They're out there standing on bridges waving Trump signs. I've seen a guy dressed up like a fucking colonial statesman waving a Trump flag on the side of the road down by the Northtown Mall. I see Trump signs everywhere. He's a polarizing figure. He's got a lot of support. It's a divisive issue. It's eating all of our fucking brains. I can't wait for the campaign to be over, but I'm scared of what's going to come next. But in the meantime, exercise a bit of caution and then extend to people an olive branch of understanding so that you don't throw gas on the fire and then fuck yourself out of the ability to make money when you have people spreading the word about what a piece of shit you are, and then you get harassed to the point that you feel you need to close your doors. Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It. That is at What Do We Call It. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm J-Man. And that's the end.